Good afternoon, everybody. I'm very happy that I am allowed to talk a little bit about bookbinding and do some special box which is depicted in one of the illustrated books of the Middle Ages. So, as you saw before, when calligraphs nowadays make replicas, this was the normal way of writing in the Middle Ages. And we know that in this time everything was written by hand. Most often it was written on parchment. So later, when you have many parchment sheets, you must make something to keep them in sequence and to protect them. And for that is also the origin of starting of bookbinding. So the bookbinder was normally, and in that time, a monk. Those people were writers and bookbinders at the same time. So what is the characteristic of a medieval binding? First of all, we must look at these bubbles here. Under this leather, there is a cord. So the parchment was sewn to these cords. Later, the whole book was covered with leather, and therefore we can see those cords all the time. One thing which is important is at that time, people did not have paper, they didn't have carton, so what they used is wood. A further element is that at that time the leather was always glued directly to the spine. So you can see that when I open this book, the spine is bent inwards. Most normally, these books in the Middle Ages did not have big decorations. Maybe there were some lines like here, blind printed lines. And often, because they wanted to protect their precious manuscripts, they were adding metal parts in the corners, so that the book was even more protected. This book here is a very special kind of book. It is called GIRDLE book. That means this book, by means of this Turkish knot here, could be put under the girdle and carried along with them. At a time when these kind of books were known, they were always containing clerical church material. So either it was for bidding or it was for reference, and later it appeared that mostly noble women had very much interest in such books, because when they had their prayer book made customly for them, they could take it all the time along with them. So this is a replica, between brackets of course, of such a prayer book, the Hours of Katarzyny van Kleve. Katarzyny van Kleve had an artist who was doing all the decoration of the pages, and she had carried it with her all the time. Unfortunately, her Book of Hours was in the last century divided into two parts. Further, unfortunately, people who deal with antiquities were selling the most nice pages out of this book, and they are not anymore inside the book. Nowadays, this original, at least what is left of it, these two parts, are in the Morgan Library in New York. So, Middle Ages, old books, and that is what we talk about bookbinders. A bookbinder can make new books, modern new books, like this one, for instance. He can make boxes, cartonnage, or he is going to deal with old books which need some maintenance. In this area, we make a differentiation between repairing and restoring. When you talk about repairing, then the aim is to make the book really usable again, and must be enforced in such a way that the use will not destroy the book. If we talk about restoring, then the aim is to keep the book as much as possible in the original state, and each action which is made on the restoration must be done in such a way that it can be taken off again. So modern glues are absolutely forbidden. Reinforcements will be done with Japanese paper, and when there is something of a page missing, one will use paper from the period in which the book was made to complete the broken page. For instance, also such marble papers must be kept and put back into the book as it was before. So I'm not a restorer. My work is especially for repairing. Of course, when you deal with books like this one, which is, if I'm right, from 1770, then you will, of course, use such techniques like restorers use for repairing this book. Sometimes you get books which are in such a state that you must think about whether you want to touch the inside of it. This is, for instance, in parchment bound book. If you want to repair those damages here and here, you have a very big risk that this parchment will, after working on it, no more fit to the book block. So what I suggested to the owner of this book is, let's keep this book as it is, with all the damages and shortcomings it has, because basically you still can cautiously, you can open it and look into it. But let's put them into a box so that it is protected. So when you put this on the shelf, you have it safe. Now, another aspect of bookbinding is you might be interested in making more artistic things. So once I had the idea to bind a book and put it into a special box, and this works like this. So now I can simply take this book out. Of course, most bookbinders, beyond making some fancy things, will also try to make replicas of original bindings, and this is one of those, which is in that sense special, that it is bound in parchment. There is no support of carton in it, it is only parchment cover, and the cover is attached by small bands of parchment on which the book block is sewn. Further, special is this front end, so the parchment is bent around the edge so that the front is protected also. By the way, this is a book about bees, one of my favorite animals in this world, and the calligraphy on the front and on the spine is done by Barbara Wilinska. Sometimes we make also fancy things, and this is one of these fancy bindings. You can already see these are two books, but they are fit together, so we must open them like this. And the left book is a normal book, like we know. It just goes from the first page to the last page. The right book is also opening from front to back, but as you might imagine, you cannot do it in the same way as this book here. So basically this book reads from back to front. No? The fancy thing about this book is the following. It contains 52 stories, and you can read them in parallel. So the writer 1 and the writer 2, they each have on the same subject one text and photos. So you can see how each of them was looking at the same issue in a different way. Okay, so let's return to our girdle book. In this girdle book, there is one page. There is one page on which there is an interesting element. I have here a copy of this page. And our attention must go to down here to these three elements. When we enlarge it, we can see that in the middle, this red-orange is a box, some kind of box. When we look at the left and the right, we can see that after opening this box, there is some kind of present in it. So what I want to do now is to show you how we can make such a box. Base is that this box is square. So the sides of the bottom of the box is square. The trick to do such a box is to make a plan. And the idea is that this square box here with side walls and cover and here the same. What we must do is, to make it easy, choose a number, a length of paper, which is divisible by 4. So basically what we accept then is that when making this box, we don't know precisely how big this will become. So what we do, this is 22 centimeters, so I make now a couple of marks around 5.5, 11, 16.5. Now, and that we must repeat on all sides. 11, 16.5. 5.5, 11, 16.5. So now we are already at the last side. 5, 11, 16.5. So, and as we see, we work always in diagonal lines. So what I am going to do now is to connect my measuring points with ruler and creasing tool. Now these creasing lines will help me later on in order to make this box fit. We need to work fairly precisely. As you can see in our template, here we will cut, and on the opposite side we will make some kind of flap so that this flap will be able to move into this slit. So here and here, here and here. So what I do is I make, height is not especially okay, I make it 3 centimeters large for the flap, and I make it 32 millimeter for the slit. Okay. So next step is cutting. On this template we see straight lines, these are cut lines. And we see these lines, these are those creased lines we already have. So what we must do now is be carefully cutting all the elements. So cut here. Now I need to cut the slit for the closing. This here. Okay. And this one. I don't have a punch here, but what would be advisable if you make such boxes, that you can punch at the end of this slit here a small hole, because that will prevent that it is going to tear out. But I unfortunately don't have this punch here, so I must do with what I have. So we are ready to start folding our box. Now, thanks to these creasing lines, it is very easy to make precise folds here, except when you don't have your lines completely perpendicular. So, now we will pull up the walls. And now you will see why I did not cut in the same way in the two diagonal things, because I need these side walls for closing the box. So let's see whether I did a reasonable job. Here we go. So, of course, this is now undecorated. There is nothing special on this box, but of course, one is free to decorate it. So here is calligraphy on it. On this one, there is this kind of Drake-like medieval drawing, painted. So it is the tail is going completely around. It even joins the mouth. I think this is a very nice box for small gifts. So maybe next year, or this year at Christmas time, you might be able to make such a box and give to your loved something inside this box. So, it was a pleasure to show you some of my work, and I thank you for watching. Thank you and goodbye.